This is Chinwe. In exactly 47 seconds, she will hear her dead brother speak, and what he tells her will destroy everything. Her family, her peace, her silence. Because Chinwe has a gift no one knows about. She hears the dead, and the dead always tell the truth. Stay with me, because what you're about to witness will make you question everything you thought you knew about loyalty, truth, and love. This is not just a story. This is a choice. And by the end, you'll wonder, what would you do? Let me take you back to the day Chinwe discovered she was cursed. She was 4 years old, sitting in her grandmother's lap at a funeral. The living said one thing. He was a good man, faithful, generous. But Chinwe heard something else entirely. A voice, clear as the bell that calls children home. The dead man's voice. I stole from the church for 15 years. I have a second family 3 villages away. I died owing everyone who trusted me. Little Chinwe looked up confused. Mama, why is the dead man saying different things? Her grandmother's body went rigid. Her hands stopped moving. She grabbed the child and ran, away from the funeral, away from the crowd, down to the river where no one could hear. Listen to me carefully, her grandmother whispered, kneeling in the mud. You must never tell anyone what you hear. Never. Do you understand? Never. Chinwe nodded. She didn't understand, but she saw fear in her grandmother's eyes. And 4-year-olds know, when adults are afraid, you should be terrified. For 12 years, Chinwe kept the secret. Attended hundreds of funerals. Heard thousands of confessions. The beloved teacher who everyone mourned, she died bitter, hating every student she ever taught. The drowned child everyone cried for. He was running from a father whose fists spoke louder than words. The generous merchant. He built his fortune by stealing from a widow. Chinwe heard it all, carried it all, said nothing until the day her brother died, and silence was no longer an option.
The Okafo family was respected, not just in their village, in 10 surrounding villages. Chinwe's father, Emeka, was the headmaster, a serious man who believed education could save their people. He corrected with words, not canes, expected excellence but celebrated effort. Her mother, Adanna, sold fabric at the market. He had a gift for color. Women traveled 3 villages away just to buy from her, but the crown jewel of the Okafo family, Chidi, Chinwe's older brother, 22 years old, top of every class he ever attended, captain of the football team, leader of the youth fellowship at church. He had their father's intelligence, their mother's charm, and a smile that made even old men stop and bless him. Everyone agreed Chidi would be the one to make something of himself, the one to go to university, the one to become Dr. Okafo, the one to lift them all. Chinwe adored him. He was patient with her when their father was stern. He helped with homework without making her feel stupid. He taught her to climb trees, to catch grasshoppers, to whistle through his fingers. When other children teased her for being too quiet, too strange, Chidi would appear like a guardian spirit, and the teasing would stop. Don't mind them, he'd tell her. You are just paying attention to things they are too loud to notice. He didn't know how right he was. Chinwe never told him about her gift. She wanted to. God, how she wanted to. Late at night, when the weight of secrets crushed her chest, she wanted to climb into his room and confess everything, but she never did. And 3 weeks ago, Chidi's university acceptance letter arrived, full scholarship to the University of Lagos. Their father wept, actual tears. Chinwe had never seen him cry before. My son, he said, voice breaking with pride. My son will be Dr. Okafo. That was Tuesday. By Saturday, Chidi was dead. It happened on a Tuesday, not a special day. No omens, no warnings, just a Tuesday. Chidi went to the city to collect his acceptance letter. He was supposed to return by evening. 4-hour bus ride. Simple journey. By sunset, he should have been home, showing them the letter, listening to their mother fuss, planning his future with their father. But sunset came and went, then nightfall, then midnight. Chinwe couldn't sleep. Something felt wrong. Like the air itself was holding its breath. At 2 a.m., a knock. Chinwe walked to her mother's scream. Not a normal scream. The kind that doesn't sound human. That comes from a place deeper than the throat. She ran to the main room. 2 police officers stood in the doorway. Faces carefully blank. "There's been an accident," one said. The words fell like stones. Bus crash. Highway. Truck driver fell asleep. Crossed the median. Head-on collision. 17 passengers dead. 23 injured. Chidi's body was at the city morgue. The police officers left. Chinwe's father sat down on the floor. Not a chair. The floor. And stared at nothing. Her mother kept screaming. Then stopped screaming. Then started praying in a voice like breaking glass. And Chinwe felt the world tilt. Her brother was dead. Golden Chidi, brilliant Chidi, kind Chidi who was supposed to become Dr. Okafor. Gone. And somewhere, she couldn't hear it yet. He was too far away, still in the city. But somewhere, her brother's spirit was speaking his final truth. She would hear it at the funeral. She always did. And for the first time in 12 years, she was terrified of what the dead would say. They brought Chidi's body home 3 days later. The village already knew. Death news traveled faster than joy. By the time the family car arrived with the coffin, everyone had gathered. Women wailed. Men stood with bowed heads. Children watched with wide, confused eyes, not understanding death or sensing its weight in the air. Chinwe stood apart from everyone. Her grandmother's hand was heavy on her shoulder. She could hear him at the funeral. Whatever he says, no, grandma, don't tell anyone. I never do. Her grandmother's grip tightened. This time is different. This time is family. Chinwe looked up at the old woman. That's why I definitely won't tell. But even as she said it, she felt the lie in her own words. Because this was Chidi, her brother, the one person she'd always wanted to share her secret with. And now he was dead. And whatever truth he spoke from the other side would be the last thing she'd ever hear from him. How could she not listen? How could she ignore him? The funeral was set for Saturday. 4 days to prepare. 4 days for relatives to arrive from distant villages. 4 days for her mother to stop being recognizable. She stopped eating, stopped sleeping, stopped being the woman who used to laugh at the market. Her father retreated into silence, sat in his study, stared at Chidi's framed acceptance letter. Someone had to tell him 3 times that food was ready before he'd even look up. And Chinwe waited to hear what her brother would see, waited for the moment that would change everything. Saturday morning arrived too quickly and too slowly, the way significant days always do. Dark clouds gathered overhead, as if the sky itself knew what was coming. Saturday, noon, the compound overflowed with mourners. The pastor blessed the body. The coffin was placed in the center. Lid opened so people could pay respects. Chinwe forced herself to look. It was Chidi, but also not Chidi. A wax version that got the features right, but missed something essential. The funeral began. The pastor spoke in practice readings about God's mysterious ways, about Chidi being called home too soon, about resurrection and eternal life. Standard funeral words. But Chinwe wasn't listening to the pastor. She was listening for Chidi. For the first hour, nothing. Just hymns, just prayers, just the sound of her mother weeping. Then she heard it. His voice, unmistakable even in death. I need to tell you something. Chinwe, I know you can hear me. Grandma told me about your grief before I left. She made me promise not to tell anyone. I'm sorry I never talked to you about it. I'm sorry I pretended not to know. But I need you to hear this now. I need someone to know the truth.
No, please, Chidi, don't.
Chinwe, the accident wasn't random. I wasn't on that bus by chance. 3 months ago, I did something terrible. You know Mr. Nkonko, the electronic shop owner, the one they found dead 2 months ago. I was there that night. I wasn't supposed to happen like that. I just needed money. I'd been gambling online, football matches, betting apps. I thought I could win it back, but I kept losing. I owed dangerous people who threatened to tell Papa if I didn't pay. I was desperate. I knew Mr. Nkonko kept cash in his shop. I knew he closed late on Fridays. I just wanted enough to clear the debt. That's all. I swear that's all I wanted. But he came back. He'd forgotten something. He saw me with the cash box.
He recognized me, called me by name. Chidi, he said. Just that, just my name, and I panicked. I hit him. I didn't mean to hit him so hard. I didn't mean for him to fall. I didn't mean for his head to hit the counter. But he did, and when I looked down, there was so much blood. I ran, left him there. The next morning, everyone said unknown criminals robbed and killed him. Papa talked about rising crime rates. Mama said the police were useless. And I said nothing. The university letter came. I thought maybe I could escape, go to Lagos, become someone different, someone better. But the guilt followed me every day, every night. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't look at Papa without seeing his future disappointment. When I got on that bus Tuesday morning, I was planning to run, forget university, forget Lagos, just keep going, maybe to Benin, maybe to Ghana, someone no one knew me, or what I'd done. But the bus crashed before I could decide. So here's the truth, little sister, the truth you're carrying now, because that's your cause, isn't it? Carrying everyone's truth. I'm not the son they think they're burying. I'm a murderer, a thief, a coward who ran instead of confessing. Maybe the crash was justice. Maybe this is what I deserved. Tell them, or don't tell them. I don't know what's right anymore. I just needed someone to know. I needed you to know. I'm sorry, Chinwe. I'm so sorry. Around Chinwe, people are singing. Her mother has collapsed, held up by aunties. Her father stands like stone, tears on his cheeks. They're mourning a son who never existed. And Chinwe is drowning in the truth. Tell them or don't tell them. What kind of choice is that?
The burial happened in a blur. Red earth swallowing the coffin. Prayers, final blessings, then back to the compound for the meal. Tradition demanded it. Table set up, jollof rice, fried plantains, goat meat stew. People ate and drank and shared memories of Chidi. He was going to be a doctor. Such a bright future. A good boy, respectful. Nothing like these wild children today. Each word was a knife. Chinwe sat in a corner, plate untouched, watching her father. He received condolences with mechanical grace, thanking people, accepting their platitudes about God's timing. He looked destroyed, but also proud. Proud of the son he thought he'd raised, the son who would have been Dr. Okafor. 3 tables away, Mr. Okonko's widow sat with other widows, her own circle of grief. She'd been at the funeral, had even brought a dish for the meal, because that's what you do in the village. You show up for every funeral, every wedding, every celebration, regardless personal pain. She'd never remarried. The electronic shop stood empty now, gathering dust. She lived on relatives' charity and church donations. Chinwe looked at her, then at her father, then at her mother being led to her room by concerned aunties. Tell them or don't. If she stayed silent, her family would grieve but eventually heal. They would remember Chidi as golden, as perfect, as the son who could have been extraordinary. Her father would keep the framed acceptance letter. Her mother would light candles on his birthday. They would be in the shrine of memory around the light, but they would be at peace. If she spoke, she would destroy that peace. She would take away their only comfort, the belief that Chidi's death was meaningless tragedy, not cosmic justice. She would replace their golden son with a murderer and a coward. And for what? So that the truth could be known? So Mrs. Okonko could have answers? Would knowing who killed her husband bring him back? Would it ease her grief or compound it? That night, after everyone left, after my mother cried herself into exhausted sleep, after my father retreated to his study, Chinwe sat in the compound, under the same sky that covered her brother's fresh grave. Her grandmother found her there, sat beside her without speaking. Finally, whatever you decide, there's no right answer, only consequences. That's what the dead don't understand. They can afford to tell the truth because they are beyond consequences. But we are still here. Chinwe, what would you do? Grandmother, I would ask myself, who am I protecting and why? Your father from the truth about his son? Your mother from more grief? Mr. Okonko's widow from false hope? or yourself from the burden of speaking? Chinwe, I don't know. Grandmother, then you are not ready to decide, and that's okay. Some truths can wait. But could they? Chinwe sat there long after her grandmother went inside, staring at the stars, thinking about all the secrets she'd kept, all the truths she'd heard and buried, all the times she'd chosen silence over honesty. What did the living lose when everyone built their lives on lies? What did truth cost compared to the price of carrying it alone forever? She didn't have answers, but she knew she had to choose.
Chinwe didn't tell immediately. For 2 weeks, she sat with the truth, carried it like a clay pot filled to the brim. One wrong step and everything would shatter. Every morning, she woke up and thought, today I'll tell. Every night, she went to sleep having said nothing. She watched her father frame more pictures of Chidi, watched her mother light candles at church, watched them build their shrine to a son who never existed, and the weight grew heavier. On the 15th day, Chinwe woke before sunrise. She knew what she had to do, not because it was right, not because it was kind, but because carrying the secret was killing her, and someone else deserved to know the truth. She took a bus to town, not the village police station. That was just one officer who slept more than he walked. The real station, in town, multiple officers, filing cabinets, the smell of old coffee, and bureaucracy. She walked through the door. A sergeant looked up from his newspaper. "Board, I need to report a crime," Chinwe said, her voice steadier than she felt. "What kind of crime?" "The murder of Mr. Okonkwo 2 months ago, the electronic shop." The boredom vanished. He sat up straight. "That case is still open. Do you have information?" "I know who did it." Within minutes, Chinwe sat in an interview room. 2 detectives across from her. Skeptical at first, a teenage girl claiming to know about an unsolved murder. But Chinwe had prepared. The night before, she'd gone to the shop because Chidi had told her exactly where he hid the evidence. The bloody shirt, behind a broken refrigerator in the back alley. The dead are precise about these things. She'd found it exactly where he said. Now she told the police, "Check behind the refrigerator in the alley, behind the shop. You'll find what you need." The detectives exchanged glances. "How do you know this?" "A friend told me. Someone who was there that night. They are too scared to come forward, but they told me everything." "Who is this friend?" "I can't tell. They will deny it if you ask, but check the alley. You'll find the evidence." They did. The shirt was exactly where she said. DNA testing would take weeks, but the blood type matched Mr. Okonkwo's. And when they examined it more closely, they found Chidi's student ID card in the pocket. He'd forgotten it was there when he panicked. The case that had been cold for 2 months suddenly had a suspect. A dead suspect, but a suspect nonetheless.
The police came on a Thursday. Chinwe's mother was at the market. Her father was at school. Only Chinwe and her grandmother were home. The knock came in the afternoon. The same 2 detectives, faces grave. "We need to speak with Mr. Okafor." Grandmother's body went rigid. She looked at Chinwe, a question in her eyes. "Did you?" Chinwe nodded once. "He's at work," grandmother said, voice careful. "What is this about?" The detective hesitated. "It's about his son, Chidi." "What about him?" "We have reason to believe he was involved in the death of Mr. Okonkwo. We found evidence placing him at the scene." The words hung in the air like smoke. They called the father. He came home immediately, face grey with confusion. The mother was summoned from the market. Within an hour, the compound knew. Police at the Okafor house, asking questions about Chidi. The detectives laid out their evidence, photographs of the bloody shirt, lab reports, the student ID card. They explained their theory. Chidi attempted to rob the shop, was caught, panicked, struck Mr. Okonkwo. The blow proved fatal. Chinwe's father stared at the evidence like he was reading a language he'd never learnt. "No." His voice barely a whisper. "No, you are wrong. Chidi wouldn't. He couldn't. The evidence is conclusive, Mr. Okafor." "Then someone planted it. Someone is trying to destroy my son's memory. He's dead. He can't defend himself." "Papa?" Chinwe stepped forward. Everyone turned. Her father, her mother, the detectives, her grandmother, all looking at her. "Papa," she said again, her voice quiet but clear. "It's true." Her father's face did something terrible. Something she would remember forever. A kind of collapse that happened entirely inside. Like watching a building's foundation give way while the wall still stood. What? It's true. Chidi did it. How do you? The lie came easier than she expected. He told me before he left for the city, he was scared, he owed money to dangerous people. He thought robbing Mr. Okonkwo would solve everything, but he went wrong. She forced herself to meet her father's eyes. He made me promise not to tell, said he would turn himself in after he got to Lagos, but then the bus crashed and she voice broke. That part wasn't acting. Her father stared at her like she was a stranger. He told you? Yes. And you didn't tell us. He made me promise, Papa. He said he would fix it. He said, get out. The words exploded from him. Not to Chinwe, to the detectives. Just get out. Mr. Okafor, we need to. I said get out. They left. The compound fell silent. Chinwe's mother stood frozen, trying to process, trying to understand. Her father turned away, walked to his study, closed the door, and Chinwe heard something she'd never heard before. Her father weeping. Not quiet tears, deep broken sobs, the sound of a man's world ending.
The village learned within hours. In small communities, secrets are currency, and this secret was pure gold. By evening, everyone knew. The golden boy Chidi Okafor, the brilliant student, the one who was supposed to become Dr. Okafor, had murdered Mr. Okonkwo. The response was immediate and vicious. Some defended him. He was desperate. He made a mistake. He was so young. Others condemned. A murderer, that's what he was. The crash was God's judgment. The compound that once overflowed with visitors grew quiet. Friends stopped coming. Church members avoided them. The family that had been respected in 10 villages was now whispered about in all of them. 3 days after the revelation, Mrs. Okonkwo appeared at the compound, asked to speak with Chinwe's mother. Chinwe watched from the window. 2 widows, one who'd lost a husband, one who'd lost a son. They sat together in the compound, didn't speak for a long time, just sat. 2 women carrying grief, shaped differently, but weighing the same. Finally, Mrs. Okonkwo said something Chinwe couldn't hear. Her mother nodded, and then, impossibly, they held hands. It wasn't forgiveness, not exactly, but it was something, an acknowledgement that they were both victims of the same violence. That knowing the truth didn't erase the pain, but maybe it made the grief less lonely. Chinwe's father never recovered. He didn't return to his job at the school, stopped going to church. One evening, Chinwe watched him take Chidi's framed acceptance letter off the wall. He carried it to the compound and burnt it. The paper curled and blackened. Her father watched with eyes that held no tears left to cry. He didn't ask Chinwe why she had waited to tell. Didn't ask for details about the confession. He simply accepted that his son was not who he thought, and that acceptance destroyed something fundamental in him. Her mother adapted better, the way mothers do. She grieved twice, once for the son who died, once for the son who never existed. But eventually, she returned to the market, started selling fabric again, rebuilt a life from the rubble. But she looked at Chinwe differently now. With a mixture of gratitude and resentment, neither of them ever acknowledged. Because Chinwe had told the truth, and the truth had freed Mrs. Okonkwo from her unknowing. But it had also destroyed the Okafor family's ability to grieve without shame. Was that a fair trade? Chinwe didn't know. Still doesn't know.
5 years have passed. Chinwe is 21 now. She left the village after secondary school, moved to the city, found work as a transcriptionist. The perfect job for someone who listens to everything, except she only transcribes the living now, only voices that exist in recordings, in interviews, in the present tense of breathing humans. She still hears the dead at funerals, at hospitals, sometimes just walking past places where people have died. They still speak their truths, still confess their secrets, still burden her with knowledge she never asked for, but she doesn't tell anymore. After Chidi,
After watching what truth did to her family, she returned to her grandmother's original rule. The dead can afford honesty because they're beyond consequences, but the living have everything to lose. She carries the secrets, all of them. That's her curse. But sometimes, not often, but sometimes, she wonders if maybe the living need truth more than they need comfort. If maybe the weight of secrets is heavier than the pain of revelation. She doesn't have an answer. Neither did her grandmother, who died 2 years ago. In her final moments, the old woman whispered, "I've been lying about your grandfather for 40 years. He wasn't the saint everyone remembers, but they needed the saint more than the truth. Was I wrong?" Chinwe held her dying grandmother's hand. "I don't know," she said. "Good," grandmother replied. "Never be certain about truth, child. Certainty is for people who don't understand its cost." Last week, Chinwe attended another funeral, a stranger's funeral in the city, and as always, she heard the dead speak, confessing things that would shatter the world, things that would rewrite the story they were telling about this person's life. And as always, she stayed silent, carried the truth alone, because that's what she does. That's what she'll always do. Even when she wishes, God, how she wishes, that she could finally stop hearing. But maybe that's the real lesson, that some people are chosen to carry weight others cannot bear, that truth and love sometimes stand on opposite sides of an unbridgeable gap, and that the most painful choice is not between right and wrong, but between two kinds of love. The love that protects and the love that frees. Chinwe chose freedom once, and it cost her family their peace. Now she chooses protection, and it costs her hers. There is no winning in this story, only choices and consequences, and the quiet, endless burden of being the only one who knows. For those who carry truths too heavy to speak, for those who choose silence as an act of love, and for those who wonder, what would I do?
If you like this video, subscribe, like, and share for more.